Thank you for tuning into the Stay Fligh podcast. I'm your host, Baby J. Today we have a special guest. Bob of VooDoo Buds out of Jackson has joined us.
Pearl.
Oh, sorry, out of Pearl. Correct. Sorry, they're so close to each other. Sometimes I get mixed up. Yesterday we had to sit down and actually reevaluate the entire Jackson area because I'm not from here originally. Chris lives on the coast. Jackson's kind of still a unrecognized or uncharted territory for us. Sorry about that, but
Okay.
I got Bob with VooDoo Buds in Pearl.
There we go.
I'll let him do his own intro and give him a little bit of his own background.
Yeah. Hey everybody, Bob Hanson from Pearl. Bob Hanson, VooDoo Buds, out there in Pearl, Mississippi. I've been in the cannabis industry since I turned 21. I turned 21 I went to Vegas for my 21st birthday, and then moved out to Vancouver, Washington, and then literally, I think it was like a week after I turned 21, got right into the industry as a bud tender, applied everywhere, and I've just loved the industry ever since. Never wanted to get out of it. Don't ever plan on getting out of it. I mean, now that I own a dispensary, no getting out of it now,
Yeah,
So
exactly. Getting into it at such a young age, did you feel like that when you jumped into the industry, was there a lot of other people that right when they turned 21 they get into the industry, or were you surrounded by some OGs, or what was your experience like?
Yes and no. So it's really funny. Anywhere that I've worked inside of the cannabis industry, I have been the youngest.
Okay.
So I got in the cannabis industry, turned 21, became a shift lead, became a manager, and just always have been the youngest wherever I've been at. Now, like even at my dispensary, I'm the youngest person that works there.
Oh yeah, I was
Yeah.
just about to ask you that actually.
Yeah. Now I'm 27, been in the industry for the past 6 years. It's been a wild ride, a very interesting ride, but like I said, love the industry, can't get out of it.
So, I mean, this is probably not even a industry question. This is probably just more of a personal question. What's the reason why you feel like, even at such a young age, you've been able to progress so quickly?
I think a lot of it's just my mentality. I've got that go-getter attitude. I did BMX growing up, and my dad always pushed that, continue on, you follow a path and you go with the path. And that led to state championships in multiple different states, number one in Idaho, Montana, Nevada, Utah.
Oh, wow.
So I learned at a very young age that if you have a passion and that you stick with that passion, that it pays off. And so I just have always been driven, always wanted to run my own business, had multiple businesses before this, while going to school, while going to college, while working full time and everything like that. So I've just been super devoted. And I think that the owner saw that inside of me at the last dispensary that I worked at before I started my own. And it was just kind of just worked out. I love working. I've got no problem working 100 hours a week, and not necessarily earning the compensation that I should be getting for it. But just understanding that I love this industry and that there's nothing.
And how often do you consume cannabis?
Oh, I smoke every day. Yeah.
All right. So for the people listening, we got a guy here who's is open to working 100 hours, multiple state championships, has the youngest person in his dispensary that he owns.
Yep.
Youngest shift leader probably in the dispensary when you're working prior. And we consume cannabis every day.
Absolutely, yeah.
So I guess the stigma of us being lazy potheads is inaccurate.
Yeah. So
to say the least, huh?
That's the funniest thing about it, is that whole stoner type of vibe. It's I've got it. Yeah, I tell everyone have a groovy day,
Yeah, exactly.
Like when I in the rec market, I always tell people, enjoy your high, have a groovy day, and so it's kind of like how I ended off. And I meet you being in this industry, you meet so many people. Yes, you do meet the people that are a little down on their luck and everything, but you also meet lawyers, you meet other business owners, you meet all these people in these high areas, literally areas that are just so, they love cannabis, they've been consuming it their whole life, and they're still successful.
Yeah.
And that's what I love about it is you can just meet so many people and you realize that everyone smokes weed. Like I was friends with all the foreign exchange students in high school and I was in student government my whole life, and so it was always kind of weird being in student government, but also, smoking weed and everything. You didn't, because if you got caught smoking weed, there goes student government, there goes college opportunities, stuff like that. And it's just crazy to think that that kind of stuff can happen from small little plant,
just smoking a little weed.
And so I found out through my time and experience that everyone smokes weed. Doesn't matter what country you're in, everybody consumes cannabis. And it's really just this amazing culture thing where you can go and hang out with friends and get in a group and smoke and laugh and watch TV, and then at the end of the day you're still just a normal person. You're not a drug addict by any means.
Oh yeah, and that's like something that we've actually discussed on another episode of the podcast is like you could take someone that in Idaho, for example, that's a cowboy, actually a cattle rustler.
Yeah.
And then you could take someone in New York City and they may have absolutely zero in common.
Yeah.
But if they're sitting around smoking weed, they're probably
Yeah.
getting along just fine.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
So that's why it's a pretty unique community to me in my regard, because I mean, I walk, I come to work dressed nice or whatever, like yourself wearing a collared shirt, but you also catch me at the lot of a Widespread Panic show wearing, t-shirts, smoking a big joint.
Oh yeah.
But it's just funny is like you can have so many different angles of a human, of an individual that can be expressed through cannabis.
Oh yeah.
Because it can be a plant, it can be something for consumption and medicine, but it also can be an inspiration for things that you do in your everyday life.
Oh yeah. I've always thought that cannabis has inspired me in certain aspects, because I think the best part about it is if you smoke and you come up with an idea that you want to do, if you were not in the state of mind of smoking, you might just be like, oh yeah, this is great. But when you smoke and you're around your friends and you're like, we need to do this. And you get so excited about it and it builds that excitement. You're just like, and everyone around you is like, oh, this is going to be great, And if you end up following through with it, you do. But if you don't, you still have that excitement with your friends of wanting to do something and continuing on with it. And I think at the end of the day, it just depends on what your drive is.
So do you feel like the drive for you to be in the cannabis industry has just always been you're just a canna enthusiast?
Oh yeah, yeah, absolutely. It's the funniest part is I got in trouble for smoking weed as a kid or as a teenager, by my mom, and now I own a dispensary with her.
Yeah.
And so it's like the full circle, of being able to consume it, be told I shouldn't consume it. Then I got a job in it, and now Then when I got a job in it, everyone's like, oh well, can I ask you questions about marijuana? And like they'll pull me aside, and I'm just like, you don't need to pull me aside. Let's make this an open conversation.
Yeah, and I feel like that's actually something that we're still fighting today here, especially in the Southeast, is like, this doesn't have to be a closed door conversation. I mean, this can be a very open conversation. Oh, yeah. But that also goes back to what you were saying earlier is everyone smokes.
Oh, yeah.
It's just you don't know.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And that's the biggest thing is like, how many people smoke behind closed doors but never actually publicly
come
out and be like, yeah, I smoke cannabis.
Yeah. That we've had people like, we have a limited parking at our parking lot. We've had people like, oh, well, when are we going to let us park in the back behind the building?
So no one can see.
So no one can see my vehicle, and a big thing here is when it comes to like, touchy topic, but more of like church and smoking, and we've had customers that have come in and they said they had to sit down with their pastor and talk to them about it. And pastor's like, hey, like, it's okay. Like you're allowed to, this is a plant that was put on this planet, to be consumed, to be utilized,
Yeah.
And so I think that's an interesting thing is when we have customers that are like, I finally don't feel bad about smoking weed anymore.
Yeah, they don't feel the guilt of it.
And my favorite thing is you can always tell when we get a customer that it's their first time purchasing legal marijuana. 'Cause I remember my first legal purchase. I got to do it twice, luckily. In Amsterdam, when I turned 18, I got to legally purchase and smoke marijuana. And then when I turned 21, I remember legally purchasing marijuana. It was really funny because I just turned 21 at 12:01. Walked into the dispensary in Vegas, handed him my ID, all shaky and everything, and everyone's like, I remember the person, he's like, I was talking to the bud tender, and they're like, hey, like, you're good. Like,
it's
okay.
It's legal now.
Yeah, like, you're allowed to do this. And I remember having customers that come in, especially here, where it's just so new, and they'll be shaking, and I just look at them like, hey, just remember when you go home and you smoke this, or you eat this edible, or you whatever product you purchase, it's okay. Just enjoy it, have fun, know that no one's going to come busting down your door because of a little plant that you're smoking.
Yeah. That's it's just so funny. It's like, I think it's, obviously it's going to take time. I think that's the biggest thing is just time.
Oh yeah.
But we're seeing the changes here in the state of Mississippi. I mean, the education around cannabis has been amazing, to say the least. I was pleasantly surprised when I first entered the market and took this job here at Southern Crop, and when made my first legal purchase, I was like, this is pretty good stuff.
Yeah. I've been impressed with the Mississippi market with the cannabis that I've seen come in and out of our doors. I didn't know how it was going to be, coming from the Washington rec market, where we do have a lot of outdoor grows, indoor grows. The market is very mature there.
Yeah, exactly.
I was very interested to see, okay, what can Mississippi grow?
Yeah.
And I'll tell you what, you guys y'all been growing for a while, because this weed out here is good. Y'all definitely have been growing for a good bit.
That's what we've been talking about. Is there's definitely been some backwoods grows been going on.
Yeah.
Some experience being culminated before this all went legalized.
Oh yeah, because like I've met some of the OG growers like Jack Herrera himself. You know, I've smoked his Jack Herrera strain specifically.
Oh wow.
You know, and so like comparing it to some of the OG strains that I've smoked out there that have coming from growers from California and stuff like that, and then smoking some of the weed here. Yeah, it's the terpene count is great. The flower is awesome. The edibles are great. I do love that since we're in the medical market, we can have a higher dose edible, you know, because most states are just 10 milligrams, 100 milligrams max, you know, and, you know, it's kind of been fluctuating with the rules and regulations with that.
Like any new state.
New state. It's just figuring it out. But yeah, the product out here is definitely, it's been impressive.
Well, I know that I've been happy with it, but with the dispensary with VooDoo Buds, what does y'all's future look like? I know that y'all are in the Pearl location.
Yes.
Do y'all have plans to grow?
Yeah,
or
absolutely.
What does that look like?
So I am part owner of another dispensary out there in McGee, House of Buds. Just a small percentage, helped their family get their dispensary started and everything like that. They've been awesome. But yeah, for VooDoo Buds in general, we're already looking for location 2. We are scouting. We found an area. Now we're just in the process of getting the lease agreement all figured out, how long the projected is until we can open. How long are they going to allow us to kind of sit on that building for just a little bit while we can get the funds put towards it to do the renovations. But yeah, so we're looking into location 2 out there in Greenville. There's actually no dispensaries open there yet.
Yep, I'm aware. Yeah.
Yes, but there are 2 licenses, so you know we'll see how that goes out. You know, we're here to just give the best cannabis product that we can out at the most fair price possible.
And that's the biggest thing. I think that's where we found ourselves aligning with your dispensary.
Oh yeah.
Along with, you know, I want to say 99% of dispensaries in the state of Mississippi is we are from an ARC brand of Southern Crop is we want to put good product out there, quality product out there, but we also want to make sure that is highly accessible.
Oh yeah.
And accessibility starts with price.
Absolutely. And that's one thing we knew coming into Mississippi is Mississippi's unfortunately a poorer state.
Yes.
And there's nothing that we can do about that. So when we came into the market, I knew that I wanted to have, you know, for example, $20 eights out the door, tax included.
Yep. I think that's something that actually I remember that conversation a while ago.
Yeah, and because I feel that everyone deserves to be able to purchase the medicine that they need. And so that's one thing that we fought for. We tax included in the price. I'm not afraid if somebody comes in and they're $3 short, awesome. We're going to take $3 off of your price. I'm not ever going to tell you, no, sorry, come back later when you have $3 more.
And I think that probably plays into why y'all been successful.
Absolutely.
I mean, 100%.
We are, for our store size, we're hitting exactly what our target should be. You know, we're getting around 60 to 80 customers a day, you know, 100 plus on weekends. We are very busy, but, you know, one thing that I train on and I focus on with our bud tenders there, with our team and crew is customer service, customer service, customer service. These people need to come in and feel welcomed. I'll take an hour to talk to you if you need an hour. I'll take 10 seconds if you only need 10 seconds. You know, whatever the amount of time that you need in for us to educate you is great. I was fortunate enough to be able to bring on another crew member, Kyle. He's been in the cannabis industry for 7 years. He came from the Nevada rec market and worked at another dispensary for a little bit and then transferred over to us.
Oh, wow.
And so it's been great. You know, we come with a lot of knowledge. We're ready to talk to you. We're ready to explain different products to you. You know, we're not going to try to just BS you and sell you a product that I just make better margins on.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know.
What's the most common question you think you get inside the dispensary?
That's a tough one. I would say this is probably this, to be honest with you. How long does a cartridge last? That's honestly, I mean, that's one of the number one.
You know what, actually, now that you say that, I've gotten that question on multiple occasions, and you're like, well, there's a couple different scenarios we can play out here.
Yeah, and when I answer that, it's always just like that. I can't answer that. I'm sorry. I've had people that go through a cartridge in one day. I have people that cartridges last multiple months.
Yeah.
For me, you know, I use a cartridge to continue the effects that I need. Yep, to keep me leveled out. You know, it's more something of a easy to consume throughout the day if I need to.
And that's something that actually we were speaking about internally is like it doesn't feel like, or at least, and please tell me if I'm way off basis here, is a lot of the guys who've been smoking like myself for, I've been smoking for about 10 years, started very young.
Yeah.
We didn't really take carts very seriously for a long time.
Yeah.
And the guys who precede me, I mean, the guys that precede both of us, the true OGs that were out in California when it first went medical and they were going out in the woods and doing all that stuff, I don't think they take vape carts that seriously either. I mean, it's all flower through and through.
Yeah. You definitely get the people that, for me personally, I love a joint.
Yeah,
the whole social aspect of a joint, it's usually you're smoking with a couple people. Cartridges, I definitely remember like when they first started coming out, I was all about them. They were great, super convenient. But
ease of use, accessibility.
But that's just something about flower.
Yeah.
I just love it. And the thing is that I know that the next generation that's coming into this industry, that's going to be the ones that are consuming the industry, yes, cartridges are going to take over.
That's the way of the future.
Absolutely. And I'll speak to this day of absolutely 100%. Cartridges will be the most item purchased. Cartridges and edibles. They're just super easy. Edibles are harder because I feel like everybody's body processes THC differently. Once drinks are introduced into the market, drinks are fantastic because they get into your system faster. Your body's never processed THC through your liver.
Yeah.
It's a way it's a new way to consume, and you get the effects are so much better compared to when you take an edible but the effects also don't last as long when you take a drinkable versus an edible. But yeah, cartridges definitely the future. We see right now though we're slightly an anomaly where we're at. I would say our sales about 60 to 70% every day are all flower.
Well, I don't think that's too big of an anomaly.
Okay.
I feel like if you look at it on an industry level, that's pretty
standard.
Pretty standard.
Yeah.
I mean, I could be wrong, but my boss, who's been on the podcast, Alec, he's from the Arizona market, and he says, and he's worked in about 9 other markets as well as a consultant. He's always saying it's very data driven, as we all should be.
Oh yeah.
But he's always saying that flower is always king, and it's always at least 50% of the market.
Oh yeah.
Even in mature markets, which makes sense because, I mean, who doesn't like getting a nice jar of flower and looking at it?
And I think the nice part about cartridges is you get the people that, have been smoking cigarettes their whole entire life or stuff like that, and they quit smoking, but they do want similar effects to smoking flower. Cartridges are such a great option. They might make you cough a little bit.
Yeah.
But I mean, smoking weed still makes you cough anyway.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, they do enjoy the cartridges. Older generation, if they've never consumed cannabis, cartridges are really easy for them to kind of
good introduction.
Yeah, because with edibles, like I said, they might need 5 milligrams. They might need 100 milligrams.
Yeah, that's true. You really
but
don't
with
know
a cartridge, you can take a hit, wait 5 minutes if that, and you're like, okay, not hitting me yet. I can take another hit. It's really, really easy to dose with cartridges, and I think that's part of the reason why like a lot of the newer people will get into
are
it
leaning into that.
Yeah, the startup to get it, you need a pen, and you need your battery and your cartridge.
Yeah.
Whereas if you're smoking flower, you might not know how to roll a joint. You might know how to roll a blunt. You might not know how to properly clear the bong, how to properly clear your pipe,
Well, that brings me to another point that I was hoping to bring up is, in Canada, they just reported that pre-rolls are outpacing sales of flower. Not completely taking over flower, but pre-rolls are on track to take over not 100%, but more pre-rolls sold than flower in terms of quantity.
That's really interesting. I think we would move a lot more pre-rolls if it weren't for the units.
Here in the States?
Yes.
That makes
sense.
sense.
So, like, for example, like in Washington, it was really easy for someone, you got an ounce a day of flower. You could get an ounce of flower. You could also get 6 grams of concentrate, 32 ounces of edibles, and then you could buy topicals as well. But it was easy because, someone would come in and they would be like, I want an 1/8 of Purple Punch, and then I also want to get 5 pre-rolls and 2 infused pre-rolls. So it was a lot easier to have people get pre-rolls out here, but out here when people kind of stay away from it because they don't want to mess their units up.
Well, yeah, I don't even know if it's. I think it doesn't. You don't want to mess up your units, but it's also when you have a very rigid system for units, it's hard to say, let me buy something that's 0.43.
Yeah.
of a single. It's like, it's hard to do the math. It's hard to wrap your head around. It's just easier to say, let me just get
Yeah.
an eighth.
Yeah. I'll buy some cones and I'll pack them myself.
Yeah. So I know that earlier you said that your preferred method is to smoke a joint.
Yep.
Is that when you get home from work? Is that typically what you're doing? Sitting down rolling a joint, or what I'm trying to ask is, we talked about earlier on this podcast, another day, is talking about the ceremony.
Okay.
Is because and from my perspective, some people look at cannabis not like this. I assume that you do.
Mm-hmm.
You kind of have this. You buy a new jar, you buy a new pre-roll, you buy a new concentrate.
Yeah.
There's kind of a little ceremony that goes into it in terms of cracking it open.
Oh yeah, the smell of it, taking the nug out, examining it. Gosh, it's just so beautiful, Do you ever get those nugs though that you pull out of the jar and you're just like, I'm sorry. Like, I have to smoke you, and I'm so sorry.
So that's why I prefer to buy smalls and pips.
Okay, so you don't feel bad about.
So I don't feel bad about it. You also get your cost breaks buying the smalls and stuff like that, and it's always the THC content's relatively the same, if not exactly the same.
Yeah.
And I don't feel because you're right. You're right. I mean, there is jars at my house right now that I can picture me opening and looking at it and saying, I just don't think I'm ready to break that nug down yet. Yeah. I'll smoke some of this other stuff, or I'm going to purposely pick around the biggest nug. That way I can wait. Last. Yeah. But go back to the question is, what do you think your ceremony really is, if you could break that down for us?
I would say lately I've been playing a lot of poker with my coworker Kyle and his roommates. They've all got their cards. And so lately it's been we'll pick out an eighth, and then we go back to his place and we'll pre-pack our joint, and then we'll start playing poker, And I think that's really great, because usually when you associate poker, you usually associate people with drinking,
And cigars.
Yeah, cigars and all that. But for me, it's like we get high, we smoke, we're laughing, we're not paying attention to the cards. I might see a 4, but it's actually an ace, and I think I got a great hand, and I don't, and so, but yeah, back to the ceremony though, definitely. Right now, I've been smoking a lot out of my little bubbler that I have.
Mm-hmm.
Because I just take a couple quick hits, I don't want to have to. I live in an apartment right now, so I don't want to smell the whole room up and stuff like that. And okay. And so I definitely, I pack my bowl, I smoke it, I hang out, I watch some TV on my phone, and just kind of I just love it though. Just that little start of the day of being able to smoke a little bit, get the mind frame right. It's definitely, like you're saying, it's a ceremony. It's a good job, Bob. You did it today.
Yeah, exactly.
You're ready.
Yeah, and whether it is like a real, ceremony is a pretty strong word, but it's like your little own ritual or whatever it really looks like. Speaking of, indica, sativa, hybrid, do you have a preference?
Yes. Yeah, I'm definitely a sativa smoker. I love getting that little energy boost to it, or that creativity to it, or just kind of like that little, effect where you just don't feel stupid, but you're just like, that's hilarious, and you're laughing at all the little things. Indicas are great. I love indicas, don't get me wrong, but I'm just the type of person, I can't smoke an indica throughout the day. I just get too tired. I work too much. I'm exhausted all the time. And so if I smoke an indica, it just really amplifies that. And sometimes it is a good reminder, though, of like, hey, Bob, you are tired. You do work, 80 to 100 hours a week.
Yeah.
You should probably, this is a good sign that you should probably go take a nap,
Yeah, I feel that. Oh, God.
What about yourself? Indica, sativa, hybrid?
So before, honestly, probably, college, high school indica,
okay.
I'd say, because it's like, I also have ADHD.
Oh, okay.
Pretty severe ADHD, so indicas always, for me, would kind of not even mellow me out, but just bring me down to a normal level.
Yeah.
But that was also when I was, younger in the black market, to be honest. But ever since I've come to Mississippi, for some reason, maybe it was that I've never really had a true sativa before I got here, but I tried some Pineapple Express on the first purchase I had.
Yes.
And it was phenomenal. I think, literally, I was smoking, and I looked at my brother, I was like, yeah, I might be liking these sativas a little bit more now.
I love that.
I know that you've had experience in Washington, Vegas, Amsterdam,
Oregon,
Oregon. What are some of your favorite strains?
I love White Widow, but I like to say a true White Widow, a 1-to-1, because White Widow should have CBD in it.
Yep.
If it's an original cut from White Widow, or you're growing it, in my opinion, properly, it should be a 1-to-1, but it's not going to be like 20 and 20%. It's going to be like closer to like 12% THC, 12 CBD.
Okay.
And there's just something about that magical, if you can grow that plant to have that 1-to-1 ratio, especially if it's a sativa with some CBD in there. For me, I get that nice like body buzz that the indicas can give you, while I still have that euphoric, slight energetic effect from it. So I love White Widow. There's a strain in the Netherlands that's called 24 karat gold.
Okay.
That one is just phenomenal. The reason I love smoking weed in the Netherlands is because weed's been decriminalized and not technically legalized yet, but it's a whole weird topic. But they've been decriminalized for the whole entire almost existence of being a country. And so the strains that you get there have been grown for generations and generations and generations. So when you purchase this strain that is truly that strain. It hasn't been cut and bred with multiple different plants. If it's ever been bred, it's been bred with its same self.
Yeah, it's been bred back to stabilize the genetics.
Absolutely.
Again,
And so that's what I love about it out there. And we have our true strains out here. But, when you just get that true strain that's been grown by the same family for years and years and years, there's something about that. And we're getting there in America. California's been legalized long enough, Washington, Oregon, But they're all new strains. You're getting new cuts, look at Do-si-do. When Do-si-do came out about 15 years ago, that was a new exotic strain. Well, now Do-si-do is getting pushed into the OG strains.
Yeah, I think that's very fair to say.
Yeah.
That's very fair to say, yeah. Is there anything that you've seen over in the Netherlands outside of, just the timing and the genetic and the generation of genetic breeding, or not even breeding, but just growing the genetics and really bringing out, is there anything outside of that we just talked about that you'd like to see here in America?
Oh, hash.
Oh, yeah.
Hash.
Oh, yeah. Hands down.
Yeah, absolutely.
Hands down.
Hash is fantastic. Now,
okay, so let's clarify for the people listening. True traditional European hash,
absolutely,
it's not really seen here in America.
Not at all.
If you're listening, you think that
Indonesian
you have
hash balls, hand hash.
That's what we're talking about.
Yes,
and if you haven't had it, look it up on Google. Look up traditional hash. It's different than bubble hash. It's a different product.
The flavor.
It is just phenomenal.
Absolutely.
I mean, I've had it. I would say I've had it twice, but only really one time where I was like, "This is true hash."
Oh yeah, and I love
when you break it.
Oh yeah, you break it, or I love it sometimes when you get that soft hash where you grab it and it's almost like string cheese. You can pull it apart and the hash still kind of sticks together a little bit, and it's like magic sand.
Yeah, that's right.
That's right. Magnetic magic sand. If you find a hash like that, that's correct. That's how it should be. And I love it because when you go out there and because they'll sell hash joints there. A lot of the times they usually mix nicotine in as a base filler, but you learn the techniques because they'll be like, oh, well, make sure you warm up your joint before you do it. And they're like, oh, warm up your joint? What are you talking about? Well, that's to help it liquefy a little bit and spread more into the joint, make it so it smokes smoother and everything. But hash has just such a distinct flavor. It amplifies it. The high is amazing off of hash, especially if you get your hand hash. I don't know, you probably got all the trimmers out here with their gloves. Yeah. At the end of the day, if they go like this, they got a hash ball, in their hand.
Yeah, but that's the thing is people don't even realize it. It's just, it's kind of like a lost way almost.
Oh yeah.
Here in America, it is. It's just definitely a lost art, and man, if we had someone actually selling traditional hand-rolled hash, I'm sure it'll be expensive, but God almighty, it'd be amazing.
Yeah, even in Washington, it was expensive, but we had some that was pretty good, and it was great because you would get people that would actually travel from Europe, and they'd come down, and they'd see the hash. Like, oh, let me try it. And you'd have some that would be like, it's okay, and some that are like, yes, this company's doing it right.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, there's a lot that I would like to see, developed, I think that I've never been to Amsterdam. It's on my bucket list. I really, really do want to go. Me and my brother have been talking about it for a while now.
Absolutely.
We were in Europe in 2023, and we were thinking that we would maybe get an opportunity to go by Amsterdam on the way back. We just didn't get an opportunity to. I know outside of just talking about cannabis, but I know that going out there when the tulips?
Yes.
When
Yeah,
the
the tulip
flowers,
festivals,
yeah,
yeah.
the tulip, I've heard that in itself is absolutely
Oh, yeah.
amazing. So
Yeah, the Netherlands is just fantastic. If you do love cannabis and you have a true passion for it, it's amazing experiencing out there, because not only do you get to purchase your weed legally, you also can go sit down at an outdoor restaurant and smoke your joint, and everything's walking distance. You can take the train. You don't have to worry about driving, because that's the biggest thing, is consumption and driving. you know?
yeah,
And so you get the opportunities. You can ride the bikes around. You
Yeah,
go ride
yeah.
through the tulip fields. Yeah, if you truly love cannabis, you need to experience what it should be like, because it's just been so recognized out there. They teach about it in schools. It's not like here where you've got the dare. Well, dare kind of changed their position a little bit on cannabis finally, but where you're taught that it's a bad thing, it's a bad thing, it's a bad thing. You're not taught it's a bad thing out there. You're taught that it's just something that adults consume.
yeah,
It's like a glass of wine. At the
yeah,
end of the day.
exactly. Like
Yeah.
a glass of alcohol, like a glass of wine or beer or something like that. So I'm thinking, the way that things are looking here in the U.S. and the way things are looking, especially here in the state, people are seeking for education on their own.
Oh yeah.
I know that is how it has to be right now. Hopefully that'll change, but we definitely are encouraging people to go and be educated on their own. at the
Oh,
end of
yeah.
the day.
Yeah, I think at the end of the day, like you said, education is so important when it comes to cannabis, because that's why I love the OGs. That's why, like, when I see people that are older generations that come in, like, I actually say thank you to them, because if it weren't for that generation having all their rights stripped away from them because of cannabis, we would never be where we're at today.
Like Jack
You know?
Herrera.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
People have been arrested for it for years and years and years, and now we're finally realizing that they shouldn't have been arrested for it. That no one should be getting in trouble for it.
Mhm.
So, like, I thank all the OGs out there, because without them, I wouldn't be here.
No, I don't think any of us.
Yeah,
would be.
none of us would be. You had to have people fight for it, and they won the fight. We're winning the fight right now.
Yep, we
You
won
know,
the
it's-
fight and we're still winning.
Yeah,
But we're
getting
still
there.
fighting. That's the thing.
We
We're
are
still
fighting, and it's going to be a fight for a very long time until all the states jump on board and it gets rescheduled, or hopefully just taken off the list in general. I don't think
Yeah.
that will ever happen. It'll be put in the same level as alcohol on the list, but it's just a matter of time.
Yeah, and I think that's all it takes with a lot of this stuff is just time, patient education and
Oh yeah,
education across people that even aren't patients.
absolutely.
But I think that we're coming up on time. So thank you very much for coming on. I always appreciate coming
Oh,
on the podcast. I
so
think
excited.
we'll definitely have to have you back on.
I would love
I would
it.
like to, that's the thing is we want to continue having a lot of the same guests come on, because cannabis journey never stops.
Never.
There's things that we're going to learn new every day. As you expand y'all's company and y'all's
Mhm.
brand, we want to see that growth along with our own growth.
Absolutely.
And I know that, probably in a week from now, we'd have brand new topics to speak
Oh
on.
yeah,
That's the
yeah,
thing is
absolutely.
we live in dog years almost inside the cannabis industry.
Oh,
3 months is every year.
Yeah,
So you got 4 years in 1 year.
Yeah, you can take a weekend off and you have brand new product in the shop that you've never seen before.
That's right. But thank y'all for tuning in today. And thank you. And please, if you're in the Pearl area, go by VooDoo Buds and check out if you're a card holder. And if you're not a card holder,
We'd be happy to teach you about cannabis, talk to you about it. If you have any questions, teach you how to get your card. Even if you just want to have an open discussion about cannabis, that's truly what we're here for. We're here to educate and help the people that do have their card get the product at the best price point possible.
you can take that, roll it up, and smoke it. Thank you for tuning in to the Stay Fligh podcast.
Stay fly.
That was excellent. I thought that was awesome.
Oh, that was great.